Viktorija Golubic loses control. The calm, Swiss star shatters on court. Alex Eala's mind games go too far, and the entire match flips in an instant. What started as a standard quarterfinal turned into a psychological battlefield. Every glance, every pause, every subtle move seemed designed to provoke. Golubic, usually unshakable, began showing cracks in her armor. The crowd could feel the tension, whispers spreading like wildfire. Eala's strategy wasn't just about winning points. It was about breaking wills. Lines were crossed, tempers flared, and the scoreboard became secondary. Fans, analysts, and fellow players couldn't stop talking. This was unprecedented. By the final set, no one knew if victory would go to skill or sheer mental fortitude. Viktorija Golubic had always been the embodiment of composure. The Swiss star's rise through the women's tour wasn't built on flashy antics or explosive emotion. It was forged in patience, precision, and an unshakable belief in her own rhythm. On the court, she moved like clockwork, her footwork measured, her strokes deliberate, her mind a fortress. Fans admired her calm, commentators praised her intelligence, and opponents feared her ability to remain unflappable in the most intense moments. Across the net, Alex Eala was something entirely different. At just 19, the Filipino prodigy had already developed a reputation for audacity and cunning. Her power and agility were undeniable, but what truly set her apart was her mental edge. Eala seemed to study her opponents before each point, observing, probing, testing. There was a sense of strategy beyond the baseline, a quiet war waged inside the mind of anyone who faced her. The 2025 Suzhou WTA 125 quarterfinal was billed as a clash of styles and generations. Golubic's calculated experience versus Eala's unpredictable brilliance. On paper, many analysts favored the Swiss veteran. Golubic had been dominant in her recent matches, her serves sharp, her returns clean, and her mental game rock solid. Eala, though talented, was still considered a rising underdog, a player who could beat anyone on her day, but one whose composure might falter under pressure. From the opening serve, it was clear this match would defy expectations. Eala's movements were precise yet unconventional, punctuated by subtle pauses and strategic glances that seemed to observe more than the ball. Every second of hesitation, every shift in timing, every measured grunt was a psychological probe. To the casual observer, these might have seemed like minor quirks, but Golubic, ever perceptive, felt the undercurrent immediately. The Swiss star's calm exterior was tested from the very first rally. By the end of the first set, spectators could sense the unusual tension. Eala wasn't just hitting winners, she was planting seeds of doubt. The scoreboard showed a tight contest, but more than points were at stake. Every rally became a battle of nerves. Golubic's usually flawless footwork occasionally betrayed hesitation. Her focus flickered for just a split second, enough for Eala to capitalize. The Filipino's eyes sparkled with a quiet satisfaction, aware that the game wasn't just about technical skill, it was about control, influence and perception, even off the court. The energy was palpable. Journalists whispered in corridors, fans speculated in live chats, and social media buzzed with every fleeting expression. Analysts questioned whether Golubic had ever faced an opponent who could manipulate tempo and pressure so subtly. One commentator remarked, "It's almost like Eala is reading Viktorija's mind, anticipating reactions before they happen." The words lingered in the arena, an echo of what was about to unfold. By the second set, the stage was perfectly set for drama. Golubic had to navigate not just the speed and spin of Eala's shots, but the invisible game being waged in her psyche. The court was no longer just a battlefield of forehands and backhands. It had become a theater of mental warfare. And as Eala's smirk crossed the net after a particularly long rally, the audience realized this match was far more than a contest of skill. It was a war of wills. Little did anyone know. The first cracks in Golubic's armor would soon widen, and what had begun as a tactical duel would spiral into one of the most talked-about moments of the season. Eala's mind games were just beginning. and the calm Swiss star was about to face a challenge unlike any she had ever encountered. The match had already carried an undercurrent of tension, but it was in the early games of the second set that the first true spark of conflict ignited. Alex Eala's strategy had become more apparent, subtle, relentless, and calculated. Every time Golubic lined up for a serve, Eala would take just a fraction longer between points, her gaze shifting deliberately, scanning her opponent's stance, her breathing, her rhythm. It was as if the Filipino prodigy were trying to map the Swiss star's mind, to find the smallest fissure and exploit it. Golubic's usual stoicism began to waver. A twitch here, a sharp inhale there, a momentary hesitation before the next return. The crowd noticed it instantly. What would normally have been a routine point now carried an almost electric tension. Spectators leaned forward, whispers running through the stands. Is Viktorija rattled? Did Eala just get inside her head? For the first time in years, the unshakable Swiss seemed human, vulnerable. The trigger came at 2-1 in the second set. Eala served wide, forcing Golubic to stretch, and then lingered at the net just long enough to offer a deliberate smile. A subtle act, almost imperceptible, but charged with intent. It wasn't the first time players tried to psych each other out, but the precision of Eala's timing was unnerving. Golubic returned the ball, her hand trembling slightly on the racket, and Eala pounced, executing a flawless cross-court winner. The audience erupted, sensing something deeper than just skill on display. On the next point, Eala repeated the pattern, a slightly exaggerated pause before serving, a glance toward Golubic's side, a faint shake of her head as if questioning the Swiss star's concentration. The psychological pressure mounted. Golubic's mind, normally a fortress, began to scramble, forced to think not only about the ball, but about the intent behind every movement. Lines blurred. Was Eala playing tennis, or was she playing her? By the middle of the second set, it was clear that Eala's mind games were having an effect. Golubic's footwork slowed, her returns were less precise, and her signature calm smile had disappeared entirely. At one moment, after a particularly tense rally, Golubic slammed her racket into the court, a sharp crack echoing through the arena. Gasps filled the stands. This was not the composed, unflappable Viktorija Golubic the tennis world had come to know. Social media exploded almost instantly. Fans and analysts shared clips and screenshots, debating the ethics of Eala's tactics. "She's brilliant, but is it too much?" one commentator tweeted. Another added, "Golubic looks rattled, mental games at their peak." Meanwhile, inside the arena, the match had taken on a theater-like quality. Every point, every glance, every small movement became part of a growing story of tension, strategy, and psychological warfare. The first signs of public controversy emerged as well. Pundits on live broadcast questioned whether Eala had crossed the line. Was she exploiting a weakness unfairly, or was this simply smart, high-level tennis? The line between legitimate competitive tactics and manipulation was suddenly blurred. Even Golubic, through clenched teeth, muttered under her breath at one point, drawing a warning from the chair umpire. The drama was escalating, on court, in the stands, and across the world's screens. By the time the second set approached its midpoint, the seeds of a potential breakdown had been planted. Eala had successfully altered the dynamics of the match. What started as skill and strategy had now entered the realm of mental chess. Viktorija Golubic, renowned for her iron composure, was on the precipice of losing control, and the world was watching, captivated, as the first cracks in her armor began to show. By the third set, the tension on court had reached a fever pitch. Viktorija Golubic's usual grace had been replaced with visible frustration. Every unforced error drew a sharp exhale, a grimace, a fleeting shake of the head. Across the net, Alex Eala remained composed, almost eerily so, her eyes flicking from Golubic's movements to the ball, her mind calculating the next subtle disruption. It was as if the Filipino prodigy were orchestrating the rhythm of the match, forcing Golubic to dance to a tempo she didn't control. The audience could feel it. Every serve, every volley, every pause carried emotional weight. Spectators murmured nervously as rallies grew longer and mistakes more frequent. Social media exploded with commentary. Clips of Golubic's tensed shoulders and Eala's almost imperceptible smirks were shared thousands of times within minutes. One popular post read, "Golubic's calm is cracking. Eala's mind games are ruthless." Another fan tweeted, "This is psychological warfare. Never seen anything like it." Analysts debated in real time whether Eala had crossed a line or if she was simply demonstrating extraordinary tactical intelligence. Inside the arena, tension became almost tangible. During a critical point, Eala executed a perfectly timed pause before serving, holding Golubic's gaze for an extra second, enough to draw a slight flinch. When the rally ended in Eala's favor, Golubic's racket collided with the ground in frustration, sending a sharp echo through the court. The moment was captured on broadcast and instantly circulated online, triggering a flurry of reactions. "Did you see that?" one commentator exclaimed. "Golubic rarely shows emotion like this. This is historic." The psychological toll was obvious. Golubic's serves lost their usual precision. Her footwork, normally measured, became hesitant. The usually unflappable Swiss star was visibly battling not just Eala's shots, but Eala's presence, her timing, and her subtle provocations. Every pause, glance, and feint was designed to test the limits of Golubic's mental endurance. Meanwhile, Eala's fans erupted in excitement, celebrating each small victory in the invisible war taking place within the match. Back in the press room, journalists debated the ethics of the strategy. Some praised Eala's cleverness, calling it next-level tennis intelligence. Others questioned the morality of deliberately destabilizing an opponent's composure. One reporter commented, "You have to admire the skill, but there's a fine line between strategy and gamesmanship. And tonight, that line is blurred." The discussion spilled onto social media, with analysts, former players, and fans weighing in, ensuring the match would be remembered as much for its drama as its score. Even Golubic's own team began to notice the shift. Her coach signaled from the sidelines, urging calm, reminding her to focus on fundamentals rather than distractions. But the damage had been done. Each point was now colored by previous interactions. Every glance from Eala felt like a subtle taunt, every tiny pause a mental hurdle. The Swiss star's breathing grew heavier, her composure increasingly fragile, and her reactions more instinctive than measured. By the time the third set reached its midpoint, it was clear the battle had transcended tennis. This was no longer just about forehands and backhands. This was about dominance, strategy, and psychological warfare. The crowd, the media, and the players themselves were all acutely aware that the next few points could determine not only the match, but the narrative that would define it. And as Golubic's frustration became increasingly visible, the world realized that Alex Eala's mind games were not only effective, they were historic in their intensity and impact. The breaking point came midway through the third set. Viktorija Golubic, usually the picture of composure, could no longer contain the mounting frustration. A long rally ended with a narrow miss, and the Swiss star's racket slammed into the court with a resounding crack. The echo reverberated through the arena, silencing the murmurs of the crowd for a moment before gasps and shocked whispers filled the stands. Cameras caught the moment in slow motion, Golubic's eyes blazing. Her jaw clenched, her normally serene posture shattered. Alex Eala, however, remained calm, almost untouched by the emotional storm she had helped ignite. The Filipino's slight smile hinted at her awareness of the effect she had achieved. Her strategy, subtle yet relentless, had worked. The scoreboard told only part of the story. The mental battle was what had truly tilted the match. Analysts and fans alike were stunned. "I've never seen a mind game executed so flawlessly," one commentator said, shaking his head. Eala didn't just play points. She played Viktorija's mind. Social media erupted within seconds. Short clips of Golubic's outburst went viral, accompanied by comments ranging from sympathy to outrage. Some fans defended her, noting the extreme pressure she faced from an opponent willing to push psychological boundaries. Others criticized Eala, questioning whether her tactics had crossed a line. Headlines read, Golubic cracks under pressure, Eala's mental assault shocks tennis world, and is this sportsmanship? The ethics of Eala's mind games. In the locker room after the match, the atmosphere was tense. Golubic's team expressed both concern and disappointment. One coach commented privately, "She's always strong mentally, but tonight she faced something different." This was beyond tennis. It was psychological warfare. Meanwhile, Eala's team celebrated, but with a quiet recognition of the storm their player had stirred. Interviews were filled with careful wording, each side navigating the delicate balance between praise, critique, and professional decorum. Public reaction extended beyond tennis circles. Sports analysts debated whether Eala's tactics were clever strategy or unfair gamesmanship. Pundits dissected every glance, pause, and gesture from the match, replaying moments frame by frame. "It's a reminder," one commentator remarked, "that tennis is as much mental as it is physical." Tonight, Eala proved she can control both. Fans argued endlessly online. Was this brilliant strategy, or was it crossing a line of respect? Even Golubic herself acknowledged the match's intensity in post-match comments. "It was challenging," she admitted, her voice steady but weary. "Alex played very cleverly. I had to fight not just her shots but my own focus. It was different." Those words alone ignited further discussion, fueling speculation that the Swiss star's breakdown was not merely emotional but a result of calculated psychological pressure. The incident became a turning point in how the tennis community discussed mental games. Coaches began analyzing Eala's tactics in training sessions. Commentators compared similar strategies from past matches, and fans debated ethics versus effectiveness. One thing was certain: the match would be remembered not just for the winner, but for the moment Viktorija Golubic, the calm and composed veteran, visibly lost control. By the end of the day, headlines, social media threads, and fan discussions painted a clear picture. Alex Eala's mind games had achieved their purpose. The victory wasn't just in points won, it was in mental dominance. Golubic's frustration, Eala's calm, and the ensuing public debate created a story that would linger in the tennis world for months to come. The drama had erupted, and there was no turning back. In the days following the match, the story of Viktorija Golubic's meltdown and Alex Eala's mind games dominated headlines and social media feeds. Analysts, fans, and former players debated endlessly. Was this a brilliant psychological tactic, or an ethical gray area that pushed sportsmanship too far? Interviews and press conferences began to reveal the layers behind the drama, offering perspectives that went beyond what had been visible on the court. Alex Eala, in her first post-match interview, remained composed and confident. "I just played my game," she stated calmly. "I focus on every point, every movement, every opportunity. That's tennis. Every player faces challenges, and I respect Viktorija for the fight she showed." Her words, while diplomatic, subtly reinforced the notion that the mental aspect of tennis is just as vital as physical skill. For many, this was a clever deflection, acknowledging the intensity without admitting any wrongdoing. Golubic, meanwhile, spoke with measured honesty. "It was difficult," she said. "Alex played very smart, very intentionally. She made me think about things I normally don't notice during a match. I had to refocus constantly. But that's part of the sport. Sometimes you face a challenge not just from the ball, but from the mind of your opponent." Her statement struck a chord with fans and analysts alike. It humanized her, highlighting the immense psychological demands top-level tennis imposes, while also acknowledging Eala's skill and strategy. Behind the scenes, coaches and players dissected the match in detail. Some praised Eala's ability to disrupt her opponent's rhythm without violating any formal rules. One veteran coach commented, "This is next-level tennis IQ. She's not just hitting winners, she's manipulating the pace, the focus, and the mindset. That's rare, and it's effective." Others argued that the line between strategic mind games and unsportsmanlike behavior had blurred, emphasizing that intent matters as much as execution. Social media continued to buzz, but the tone shifted slightly. Memes, heated debates, and viral clips of Golubic's visible frustration circulated widely. Yet alongside the criticism, there was a growing recognition of Eala's talent and the sheer mental pressure she imposed. Fans began to discuss how such tactics might shape the future of women's tennis, raising questions about strategy, ethics, and the mental toughness required to compete at the highest level. The incident also sparked self-reflection for Golubic. Observers noted that even in defeat, she remained composed off the court, analyzing what went wrong and what could be improved. Her team reportedly worked on techniques to maintain focus under psychological pressure, while Eala's camp continued to refine her already formidable mental game. The match became a case study for both players, one highlighting the vulnerability of even the most composed athletes, the other showcasing the power of strategic intelligence. Ultimately, the truth revealed itself as nuanced. Eala had not broken any rules. She had simply played her opponent and the situation to perfection. Golubic's reaction, while dramatic, underscored the human element of competition. Fans were reminded that even the most experienced professionals are susceptible to mental pressure, and that psychological strategy is an undeniable part of elite sports. By the end of the week, the match had settled into the collective memory of the tennis world as a moment of intense drama and debate. Was it fair? Was it brilliant? Or was it a cautionary tale about the power of the mind in sports? The answers were complex, but one fact remained clear. The clash between Golubic and Eala would be remembered not just for the scoreline, but for the emotional and mental drama that unfolded on every point, every glance, and every pause. Weeks after the match, the clash between Viktorija Golubic and Alex Eala remained one of the most discussed moments of the 2025 season. The narrative had evolved beyond wins and losses. It had become a story about psychological warfare, resilience, and the fine line between strategy and provocation. Analysts and fans alike reflected on the match not just as a contest of skill, but as a battle of minds, a game played as much in the players' heads as on the court. For Alex Eala, the match cemented her reputation as more than just a rising talent. Her ability to influence Golubic's mental state highlighted a strategic sophistication rarely seen at her age. Commentators praised her insight, her timing, and her composure under pressure. "This isn't just tennis. It's chess at 100 miles per hour," one analyst said. Eala's performance sparked conversations about the evolving nature of competitive tennis, where mental toughness can rival raw athletic ability. Golubic, meanwhile, demonstrated resilience even in the aftermath of her visible frustration. She analyzed the match carefully, studying each interaction and moment where her focus faltered. Her reflections underscored a vital lesson. Even the most experienced players are human, and maintaining composure under intense psychological pressure is a skill as valuable as any physical technique. Fans admired her honesty and grace, recognizing that moments of vulnerability do not diminish greatness, they humanize it. The broader tennis community began to grapple with the implications of the match. Coaches introduced discussions about mental toughness and psychological preparation into training sessions. Young players were encouraged to consider not just their shot-making and movement, but how to handle subtle disruptions from opponents. Social media continued to highlight key moments, sparking debates about ethics, sportsmanship, and strategy. The Golubic-Eala match had transcended a single tournament. It had become a reference point for mental dynamics in women's tennis. Yet perhaps the most important legacy was the conversation the match inspired. Was what Eala did fair play, or was it manipulation? Could such tactics be taught and mastered without crossing ethical lines? These questions lingered long after the last point was played. For viewers, it wasn't just a match to watch. It was a story to analyze, to discuss, and to learn from. It reminded everyone that professional sports are as much about mental fortitude as they are about skill and stamina. In the end, the match left both players stronger in different ways. Eala gained confidence in her ability to influence high-level competition, while Golubic's introspection strengthened her mental strategies for future battles. Fans witnessed a rare spectacle, a contest that highlighted not only the athletic, but also the cerebral nature of elite tennis. The echoes of that day would be felt in tournaments to come, as players across the tour took note of how subtle tactics and psychological awareness could shift outcomes in profound ways. And so, the story of Viktorija Golubic losing control and Alex Eala's mind games serves as more than a single dramatic match. It is a testament to the evolving landscape of women's tennis, where strategy, intellect, and mental toughness are as crucial as physical skill. As fans continue to debate the ethics and brilliance of that confrontation, one question lingers. Was this just a rivalry, or the beginning of a new era in how the mental game is played on the world's biggest stages? The battle between Viktorija Golubic and Alex Eala was more than a match. It was a clash of minds, a test of focus, and a lesson in mental toughness. One moment, a glance, a pause, and the dynamics of the game shifted entirely. Eala proved that strategy and psychological insight can be as powerful as any forehand or serve. Golubic reminded the world that even the strongest warriors have moments of vulnerability. This match will be remembered not just for points won or lost, but for the intensity, the tension, and the drama that unfolded on every serve, volley, and rally. What do you think? Was this a brilliant display of mind games, or did it cross the line? Let us know in the comments below, and if you want more inside stories, rivalries, and controversies from the world of women's tennis, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what happens next.